All right. Welcome back, guys. It's the AMLoB Podcast for the week of 3/19. Um, we're looking a little thin up here today. Vicious he said he's running a little late, so he'll probably hop on here before we finish. Emmons is out of commission for the night, at least as far as I know. He said he'll hop on if he can. Same with Corey. And we don't have anybody really special guest this week. So with that being said, you got me and Crips rocking out today. So one thing that we've had go on this week, had a few big games. You had Snippy and you had Snip. What in the world? Did you just why are you up there twice?
There we go. Yeah, okay. My phone died.
Got it.
And my phone died, and I don't know why, but it's saying I'm still in the call, but it let me join on my laptop now, so I'm not gonna question it.
Yeah. But we had some big games recently. Had Saints, me and Saints. That was a barn burner, 31-30. Game came down to the last 8 seconds. Big play by Newkirk. We've had Snippy and Poop, which that was a 21-14 defensive battle. I think they threw like 3 picks apiece. User versus user action. And yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of really big games. It actually Crips and Roger, and that was that didn't go as well as the other ones did.
That wasn't quite as competitive a game.
Yeah, but as far as like the big name username for the league, yeah, that was a pretty big game. So yeah, man, we've had quite a few big ones. Any big ones you could think of that I missed?
I'm actually about to. I actually pulled the schedule up while you were talking about it, so I could go through and see. I mean, yeah, let's see. This week we had Cards and Snippy this week, or Cards and Dicey this week.
Yeah,
Cards pulled off the upset, and thanks to him, I sealed up the division this week. But that was a big one. And then, yep. And then Pook actually beat Vicious by 14.
They played today, didn't they?
Yeah, they played.
They played today.
42-28. Oh, West had 5 touchdowns. Hoyt had 13 carries for 17 yards. I can see his rushing offense has died without Crowell. Dontre Mock, no surprise to all of us, averaged 37 yards per reception.
Yeah, he's like the new Tyreek Hill.
he makes Tyreek Hill look like crap. Let's be
real. Yeah, he's the new Tyreek Hill.
I think he said he's usering on Michael Kendricks now, which is interesting. Because I don't think that's good. He actually had a pick, so I guess kudos for that.
They can't be that bad, right?
Let's see. Other than that, we had trying to find some. Oh yeah, Dicey and Owen played last week. With Dicey, actually they didn't actually play. Never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a forced win.
Yeah, it would have been a good game, but. And then I'm guessing Corey probably played. Oh yeah, no, you just mentioned the. Actually, if we're gonna go through and look at stats, let's go through and see. Yeah. Oh, West and Patterson combining for 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in Pook's game against Snippy. Hoyt actually had 92 yards against his former team.
Okay.
And Snippy ran the ball 1 time. Sorry. He ran the ball 1 time for 10 yards with Amir Abdullah, and his other 2 running backs combined for 9 carries and -7 yards.
Okay, yeah, that'll definitely do it.
So
definitely
all in
do
all,
it.
he ran the ball 10 times for 3 yards. That sounds like a
Yeah.
stat line playing Pook's front seven.
Yeah, I was gonna say like all of them have like 99 block shed, including Tyrone Holmes, who's a defensive tackle, which that's ridiculous. But it is what it
It is
is.
what it is. Oh, you don't think if you don't think I'm moving my boy Gardner back to D tackle in a year or two and he's got 99 block shed, y'all got another thing coming.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I just want to get him to 91, 95 maybe, and I'll sit him back there. He'll do fine.
yeah, I think that's what apparently that's what I have to do for my defensive line because these last 2 weeks I have gotten just drug on the offense at the point of attack. Like I have gotten drug at the point of attack.
Yeah.
It's really terrible. Like I was just looking at like the fact that DJ went off for like 120, 130. Then Camaro went off for like 140 last week. And yeah, it's just that my defense that was so strong for most of the season has definitely gone downhill since I've been playing these division games, which I've had like 6 in the last 7. I've had all 6 of them in 7 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, this is I did not realize this game went the way it did. Owen and Vicious when they played 2 weeks ago. 38-34, and Owen didn't do that. He didn't do that. I mean, Owen had 20 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hardly had 300 total yards, but he I don't know. Oh yeah, this was that game where Birch didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I.e. the game where I finally have a chance at getting Rookie of the Year for my guy that rightfully deserves it over a running back that averages 3.8 yards a carry.
Yeah, I was going to say Vasquez has been one of the best guys, one of the best rookies in the league this year, man. He's been crushing it.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised. I'm getting more of Roger's logic of why he's like, oh, you can do anything with anyone. I mean, you kind of can. I mean, it helps to have, Allen Robinson, who I can kind of go to in clutch situations. Where with his, I think the best thing that kind of exemplifies that was when I was playing Roger last night, and I'm at 3rd and like 15, and I had Robinson on like a bench corner, and he was one-on-one with the corner. I pass led it up the field just because he had a little bit of leverage up top, and he just went up and cherry-picked it off the dude's head for like 30 yards.
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad for Roger, but at the same time, like he does have 98 catch, 99 catch in traffic, and 99 spec catch. I would expect him to make that play.
It's like, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. No, but Vasquez has kind of been the he's been kind of the proponent of my offense a lot of the year. Honestly, he's not quite as fast as Pringle, but he's got the same kind of style of when Pringle came in. He didn't really have great spec catch or anything. He was just a guy with catching traffic, decent spec. And I mean, Vasquez has kind of just done the same thing. He just doesn't. He makes all the plays I need him to, and so it's worked. It's been a nice pairing. I just wish I could have gotten one of those tall boys that got stolen from me in the
draft. Well, there's quite a few in this draft. I think I'm set at receiver at the moment.
Yeah.
With hold on.
Sutton and
Samuel, with Sutton, Samuel, and Mike Williams.
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty set at receiver. They've been like Mike Williams and Sutton is a deadly combination, man. Like especially because right now I'm leading in wide receiver of the year. I'm leading into wide receiver of the year, and I'm leading and of course that means he'll probably end up getting the Pro Bowl too. So, I mean, I think that would get me like 40,000 XP to kind of just play around with.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
He's already a beast now. So, I mean, next thing I'll do, it's already got his route running above 91. His release is at like 90 or it's either upper 80s or 90. And then the thing I want to work on is that spec catch. That way I can kind of just throw it up and he'll come down with it. I think right now it's like a 80 something, but of course, they got tiers and levels to it. So that's my next thing. And then have him on one side, Mike Williams on the other, and then my burner Samuel in the slot with Deshaun Kaiser and his 95 throw power.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's funny how AMLoB, who's probably he's not my slowest of my three guys because he at least still has 90 speed, 91 excel. But I mean, he leads me in yards per catch at 22.4, which really shows you just kind of where I go to him in like certain situations, like the situations I go to him in. I don't really
Dicey.
Yo. And then, but the real surprising thing is who my second guy is in yards per catch, and it's my 6'6" rookie Carlson, who's got 86 speed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just because I'll run a little more 4 receiver sets this year, and so I can basically use him as a tight end, air quotes, not really.
Yeah.
And just kind of put him in the slot, like where you would have a split out wide tight end, like you'd put like a Jordan Reed type. And I mean, he attacks the seam so well. He's a good compliment to have on the field whenever Winston isn't on it. So
yeah. Oh yeah, and Dicey, I just sent you the power rankings that we have for this week. That way you can kind of look at them and see
gotcha.
how you feel about some of the stuff that we got on there.
Should I preface him with my weird ranking? Because I think he'll question it. I said in our chat, Dicey, about a week ago after the suspension got handed down, I said, if I win with my 3 starting offensive guys out, backups, if I win, I'm gonna put myself number 1 in the power rankings for a week. And not only did I win, I won by 21 points with my backup quarterback getting injured on the second drive of the game, and I had to play with Dustin Flacco. He's Joe Flacco's brother, except Joe Flacco got all the arm strength. This dude's got 86 throw power.
Wasn't that the name of Keanu Reeves's what do you call it? When he played that one movie where he was the quarterback, the replacement quarterback.
He was Shane Falco.
Oh, Falco. Okay.
Shane Falco.
But and so I won, but I still won by 21 points, and so I had to stick to it. I couldn't go back on my word.
Who?
Oh, it was against Dolphins. He wasn't that good, but
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's listened to, he wasn't that bad either. It was just I don't want to be I don't want to look like I'm just trying to rip on him. It was just our teams just were not very evenly matched, to put it nicely. Because
Dolphins team's gotta be the worst. Like actually play CFM win.
No, Steelers definitely have that title, man. That thing. Yeah, the Steelers team, you have to like legitimately gut it out.
And you don't even have a first round pick.
And you don't even have a first to like really like compensate for it. So it's just kind of like you really have to like gut, like in the offseason, you gotta like gut out the team, take out all those old players, either release them or trade them if somebody wants them.
Get like 15 7th round picks and try and trade them into a 6th round picks, trade them into like 2/3.
Yeah. And that's like the only way that situation comes out. But one thing I will do, I do applaud the new Steelers user. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his gamer tag, but he's done pretty solid with given that team situation so far.
I would agree. I would definitely agree with that. I think Jun Boom.
Yeah.
Jun Boom.
Yeah.
Jun Boom. I apologies if I'm butchering that, but I mean he is I don't know how recently he joined, but
it was a couple weeks ago. I think he's played like 3 or 4 games already.
Yeah. But I mean granted he did lose a combined 9-90 against Pook and
I was gonna say Pook said he was
against
not,
Pook and Vicious. But from watching the game too, he wasn't because that was that game I had to go all the way back through and watch for Mock and West, and it wasn't necessarily that Steelers making a bunch of bad plays. I mean, he was moving down the field a decent amount, especially early on. It was just I mean, there was just nothing his team could do to stay competitive against Pook's team. I mean,
it was one of those games where talent literally just took over, and you can't really do much.
And that's not a knock on either one of them because I mean you can't really tell what's going to be in that situation till.
Is the Steelers guy just auto progressing players, or what? Why does Nick Chubb have 95 carry and 95 ball carrier vision?
That might have been Corey, honestly.
What the hell is that?
I have no idea. I was going to say that's probably Corey, but
both those stats super useless.
Well, I mean, I know there was a time where those AFC West teams were becoming CPU so much that he had a lot of sim games. So I would assume that's the reason why his ball carrier vision is 95, just because he had a lot of sim games.
I know ball carrier vision is pretty useless, but I mean carrying, I've always it doesn't necessarily mean like as much as like you would think it would because of the way that they do traits and everything, but you know, I would still much rather have a guy with 99 carrying than a guy with 70. And having Leonard who has 99 versus my backup Woods, who's a converted receiver, who every time I have to start him, I have to immediately spend XP after the game to get him back above the threshold, so I don't have to move him back to receiver.
Yeah,
because he'll lose like 2 carrying every game because he'll fumble 2 or 3 times on 10 carries.
Yeah.
So, granted, he probably doesn't have the best traits either, but I mean, it just I value carrying just from a logistical standpoint, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, I value it. I think it comes in handy, especially when guys have that strip ball, the aggressive strip ball stuff.
Or big hitter.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, I don't think it helps with big hitter.
Does it not help with big hitter at all?
Yeah, from what
big hitter, the brace trait.
Yeah, I think that trait helps more against the big hitters. But as far as like the big hitters go, as far as like the big hitters go against the carrying, that's not what it's for. It's for when people are trying to strip the ball out. But I think the 99 carry is very useful, especially when people have those the strip ball set to aggressive.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually useful. Ball carrier vision is kind of like one of those take it or leave it. It boosts your overall type of things. But I do think awareness matters for running backs because it helps with pass blocking.
I 100% agree with that. Granted, I kind of Leonard still to this day only has 76 awareness, so I kind of. I've never really put a lot of XP into his awareness, but I do notice it because it's part of the whole pass blocking logic is when your running back becomes that 6th O lineman basically, and it averages in with them. And so if your O lineman is, and for me having a guy like Holly who is always at least until if and when he makes the Pro Bowl, is going to be my lowest awareness guy, because you can always, that's the one thing I actually like about this Madden is you can develop a low awareness guy and just up his blocking and then spend his awareness and if and when he makes the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So, like I can just keep him at 64 awareness because my center has 90. And so, I mean, he's just going to replace his 64 awareness and it really doesn't matter. Which I think is it's an interesting concept, but I mean, in terms of like how many different things they kind of threw against the wall this year with the O-line and everything, and then target passing and all. I think that's kind of my favorite thing that because I've noticed a lot, especially having teams and having to build from crap at O-line to at least now I'm pretty competent.
Yeah.
Is that underselling it a little bit?
Yeah, but let's get to these power rankings because we didn't even talk about these. Dicey, you've seen them.
Yeah.
What you thinking, man?
The power rank based on record, they're probably accurate, but I feel like Lights after playing him needs to be a lot higher.
Well,
Cardinals.
Yeah.
That guy's fucking tough to play against.
I
think I threw for like 100 yards.
He's turned it on because, like,
I don't think he was playing, was he? I think he was just taking a bunch of like sim losses and shit.
because well, I don't know because I know he played Roger. I know he played at least a few of those games and he had lost. But I mean, going from 4-5 to where he is right now, where he's leading the division, and now he's actually in control of the division because Roger lost to Cripps. So I mean, he has turned his season completely around.
To start the season, he beat Roger and he beat SOCOM.
Yeah.
He lost in a 5-week span. He lost to me, he lost to Snippy, and he lost in a forced loss to Roger. And then he lost 2 Sims to the Texans and the Titans. And ever since then, I mean, he's on a 5-game win streak right now. Granted, 3 of them are forced wins, I think, or I don't know what it is, because it says like he's played them, but they were a forced win, and so I don't know if it was like a force that was already set, but he played it. I mean, there's not really a way to really tell that from without checking if there was a user for those teams back then. But no, I mean he's definitely a good user, and I mean I think the only reason I had him as low as I did was just because I kind of said in our chat last night that I was only weighing things up to the end of last week just because the way advanced fell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he'll definitely be higher for me next week.
His defense was just ridiculous. I couldn't do shit. I threw 3 picks, fumbled twice with Trubisky as well.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. It sounds like it. But I would say Lights will probably make a jump.
Is he who won the Super Bowl last year? I was talking about somebody.
He did win the Super Bowl last year. He did win the Super Bowl last year. Which at least what it seemed like happened after that, he kind of lost his drive for Madden.
Yeah.
Because even in Oasis,
he's not playing.
The thing. Yeah. So I think he finally started getting it back. But yeah, he's been balling out. To me, of course, you have Pook at 1. It's like you can kind of say strength of schedule, but for every 2 bad teams he faces a really good one because he has to play.
Him being 13-1 surprises me. I played him and I like Pook, but I'm not very good and I beat him, so I don't.
So we have because he played Snippy, he's played. Let me pull the schedule up.
He beat Snippy, right?
Yeah, he beat Snippy.
Yeah, that surprises me.
I'm pulling it up on my box right now.
Yeah, because he's played Snippy. He's played Vicious twice.
He beat me week 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say he played Cripps.
He played Vicious week 3, me week 4. He played Austin this year.
Yeah.
He played Snippy, and then he played Vicious again, and he plays Corey this week.
Yeah.
Or Corey next week.
Next week. So
and I feel like that kind of does make up for playing the Raven. He started the year against the Bears and then the Broncos, and he played Steelers twice already. He's played the Raiders when I think they were a CPU. He played the Pats in Grid's first week, which I was surprised that game was as bad as it was because Grid's a pretty good user, but that Pats team is also pretty bad.
Yeah.
Didn't that guy just come in recently?
Well, I don't think he's really been playing much because I know the last couple of weeks, at least the last couple of events, he said he was in Vegas or something. So
yeah, I've been in leagues with him for 3 years now, I think. So he's been in the very first league I was in. He was in my division, and it was he was. I don't know if you remember us when Pook was back on. We were talking about the guy that back in Men 16 had that dime man press scheme that everyone hated because you couldn't stop it. Because he had Von Miller and Khalil Mack at D end, and Grid was Broncos in that division, and that was I hated that division. I was by far the worst person in that division, and that was kind of what forced me to get better because I had to play Pat's dime man press scheme twice a year. I had to play grid twice a year, and I had to play another guy who was better than both of them twice a year too. And I would go like 1-5 in my division every year, but
that sounds fun.
Yeah,
I mean, it made me better. I mean, I gotta sink or swim.
Yeah, that's true. Snippy is at I think I have him at 2. Crips for Crips reasons has him at 3.
He's let's realistic. Okay, let's be real for like what my purpose. If for the purposes of this itself, I would probably put myself. I'd probably still slot myself below you because last time we played, you beat me, and that would probably be my tiebreaker on that. Is that last time we played, you beat me because we haven't really played many like opponents or anything. So I would probably put. I would probably realistically put myself at 4, but
yeah, that's cool. I have Snippy at 2. Snippy kind of just doing a rundown of the top 10. I'm not doing all 32 of these teams, but
we can chill with the top 8, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to say, but Snippy, of course, he honestly. I feel like he really didn't, even though he was undefeated for a long time. I feel like the first part of his schedule, I don't think he really played that well. And then I guess like a switch flipped, and now he
lights. That's about it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So he beat you week 4.
Yeah, he beat me week 4. Which
LJ will go on for a week and a half about how that game should have been different.
Exactly.
Was it close?
Differently.
It was 33-31.
Yeah, I had the lead with like a minute and change left, and I blew it because of some crazy play. But it's whatever. It is what it is. If y'all want to watch it, you can watch it on my Twitch. Actually, it's on my YouTube channel too.
Selfless plug.
So,
he's got a couple decent wins.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But he hadn't played a whole lot of people either. I mean,
I don't know if Austin's trying this year or not. But I mean, beat him twice. Fishes once. Roger.
Yeah.
But Roger's kind of bad at. I mean, you want to talk about a down year too. Roger's had a down.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Well, it's tough to. It's like I said in the chat. It's tough to be elite every year. It's tough because especially with how the schedules and stuff constantly change, and with how people especially in the offseason, a lot of people's teams change like ridiculously over the offseason. I think like the few people that don't, mine doesn't because I really don't trade much or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had talent. I never really.
I don't feel like anybody really trades anymore.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we're so deep in. I think people kind of got their teams how they want to. So the only reason people are moving now, or if they're older players that they're not using anymore, or something to that effect. But I mean, teams change so much. It's just. I think one of those.
I think Roger too. I mean, he's always at the top of that turnover list because he tries to. I feel like that's an extent. Like, not that it works for him a lot more often than it doesn't. I mean, and kudos to him for that. But I think that's just kind of the risk you take with having. With letting yourself go through so much turnover year in and year out, is that you run the risk of having one too many guys walk out the door in a given off season, and you fall off more than you thought you would.
Yeah, that's very true too. Like
his only losses are against decent teams too. To be fair.
Yeah.
Lights, LJ, Austin, me and Crips, I think, and Snippy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, even with all of those, I think he's still like in the fifth wild card spot. Even with losing this week, I think he's still in the 5th wild card spot because Saints won. I think Saints clinched the playoff spot today.
I can actually.
Yeah, how did he beat you? By the way, I just saw that just now.
Oh my goodness, man! So like we hit. So first of all, it was like 24-14 going into like the last 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I feel like I was watching that, and then you were up a lot. And I turned it off. I was like, all right.
Yeah, he had got. It was like 24-14. He was winning, and then like I got a couple turnovers, and I finally got it back to 30-24, which it should have been 31, but my 96 accuracy kicker missed one off the post. But anyways, yeah, so it's 30-24. It's like 30 seconds left. He has no timeouts. He has like 80 plus yards to go. He throws the first play, and I tackle him inbounds. So he's running hurry up, getting back to the line. It's like 20 something seconds left whenever he snapped. It was actually no, it was like 18 seconds left when he snapped the ball. So then he just heaves it to his 5'9" elite receiver, Newkirk.
Yeah.
And against Sean Evans, like my best defensive player, he puts it up, he one hand catches it.
And you're telling this story again.
One hand catch in PI animation for the touchdown with 8 seconds left on the clock.
Jesus Christ.
That's like the fifth time I've heard that story tonight.
That sucks. I was so mad. Oh my goodness. But I mean, I didn't really deserve it when I threw like 5 picks.
Yeah.
I gave up like 150 rushing yards total. Then
he had 9 sacks too.
Yeah, he man, I couldn't.
His free safety had 4 picks.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad, but it is what it is. I shouldn't have lost that game. Both of those games I've lost, I've had the lead going into like the last minute of the game, and I've just blown it on crazy stuff. But
sorry about that. I had a little bit of technical difficulties there. My laptop froze.
I was scared to say you got more now. You got a lot of turnover going on over there. What you doing?
I'm back on my phone again. My headset's been charging a little bit, so I can at least keep my phone plugged in, kind of like I did last time. So
true.
You think I would learn it eventually? Just make sure my phone's not dead coming into stream timing or in case I need it. But yeah. So I think you and Snippy, to finish the point I was trying to say before I died, have both basically clinched a first round bye, barring.
Well, I play Redskins still, so the only way I clinch is if I beat Bills next week or he loses this week. If he loses this week, then I clinch it. But if
you haven't, you have to beat him still. But I don't really going through looking at Redskins schedule. I really wasn't impressed with most of the wins he had, and I mean he's got some that. I mean that was the big thing I noticed, especially in the NFC after you got past the top couple guys. Is everyone has bad losses.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not like just one bad loss or two. I mean, it's like 3, 4, 5, like in just losses that's just like, really? Granted, it's kind of hard to judge too, because there's so much turnover. There's been so much turnover in the NFC over the last like season and a half. It's kind of hard to keep track of like when person X joined versus whoever, but
yeah.
It looks like Roger is currently in the 6th seed, and Saints is. Well,
I think with the win that he just got, I think he clinched a playoff spot.
No, because if he win, I mean, you still have 3 teams at 7 and 6.
Yeah.
While he's at 9 and 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could still by tiebreakers fall below all 3 of those, and one of them's Austin. So I honestly really wouldn't count it out.
That's true.
But it looks like it's gonna be.
But Giants has a tough match this week, though. He has Corey.
That's true.
So he has Corey this week.
Giants has been someone that's actually, when I was going through looking, he's got a few more impressive wins than I actually kind of thought he would.
even playing like when I played, I think the thing for him is consistency. It's like he'll make good play. He'll play good one week and then he'll play bad another one. So I think that one is just more of a consistency thing than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, like going through and looking, I mean, he beat Saints by 10. He beat Stephon by 16 in back-to-back weeks after losing by 17 to Redskins and losing by 48 to you the week before.
That was bad.
And then he won 2 straight. I mean, he beat the guy he beat Eagles who almost beat Roger by 23 points.
Yeah.
And shut him out. So I mean, he's got an interesting resume. I feel like some of that too might be that he still hasn't. I don't even know if he's been here the whole year or if he was here.
No, he's been here the whole season.
He has been.
He actually got here. He got here the end of last season.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember if he joined into last year, like beginning of this year.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's just consistency with him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think given him, I feel like he's a guy that give him another offseason to try and build that team a little more towards how he wants it, and I could see him competing for that NFC East title.
Yeah, I think another thing he needs is I think one of his team needs, in my opinion, even though he has Odell, he needs another like go-to guy. Because I know that's what I did in my game against him. I focused on Odell, and wherever Odell was, there was always at least 2 guys in the vicinity. Mm-hmm. So with that, taking away Odell, it kind of made it tough for him to throw. But
yeah, because Shepard's not all that impressive. Like looking at him, he's not bad. He's not bad, but it's just And then Evan Ingram just never developed.
Yeah.
You can tell he's a guy that the CPU just kind of did what they wanted with him. I mean, he's got 71 catching traffic.
Well, I mean, most tight ends really don't have like the catching, because even OJ Howard, he doesn't have high catching traffic and stuff like that either. I think his route running is like in the 70s. Well, at least on the stock roster, you know what I'm saying. I think his route run is on like the 70s and his catching.
I mean,
like
nobody's training their tight ends week to week, right? Like, it's
I mean,
like a waste.
No, it depends. I mean, I probably will next year, just depending on. I kind of go just need by need. I always develop my O line for the most part, just because. I mean, my O line has always been such a strength of my team because of that. Because I dev my O line year to year, but then the other position, whether it be receiver or if it's, I did running back for the first couple of years with Leonard, just kind of it just differs kind of on need. And because last year I didn't really have a big position of need, I would, Winston was my biggest position of need that I would develop. So, I had a decent amount of the times I would, do O line and tight end so I could get him some extra XP. But
I mean, I dev mine, but that's because pretty much everywhere else on my offense is kind of set. Honestly, I don't see the purpose of really putting the weekly trainings into my quarterback because one, he's already a solid guy, right. And on top of that, they're like the most likely to get XP just basically off of what they do.
Yeah.
So I don't even really see the point in like really using a weekly training on a quarterback. But in my receivers, of course, I have Mike Williams, who's already developed. Curtis Samuel, I got a Pro Bowl with him a couple years ago, and that made him a solid receiver, especially for somebody that's in the slot. And then Sutton, I had a great year with him last year and a great year with him this year too. So him getting more XP this year is going to make him into a great guy. And of course, we all know what happened with Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, typically what I've done with this franchise, I've done a lot of the O-line and running back training. Mm-hmm. And this year, just simply because I had to replace Greg Olsen, I've been doing the tight end and offensive line one just because I've had to replace Greg Olsen. But
it's just so expensive to train running backs. I've never felt the need to do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Forever.
Yeah, true.
I mean, honestly, I don't have an issue doing the tight end one, especially because I don't run just a ton of 2 tight end sets, but I feel like I run at least enough where it's kind of worth it. I mean, my backup tight end is, at least at like 80 run blocking for whenever he's on the field, but I I think year to year, honestly, it really depends on kind of what you need most. And I've kind of started messing around with the focus players too, to kind of, if I've got my Saints team in one league where I do O-line and running back, but then I've got Michael Thomas as a focus player because he doesn't get that dev XP week to week.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, I mean, it would work better. Honestly, I feel like it'd work better in that way than having putting Kamara as a dev guy, just because Thomas, because he's just normal dev, while Thomas is quick, and it's not like the only other receiver that I would really have any idea of future plans for would be Snead, and he's not that good on updated rosters, so I'm probably gonna have to overhaul the receivers after year one anyways. So might as well just focus on Thomas. And it's something I've kind of messed around with, because typically in the past I'll just kind of do I'll double up sometimes just to extra help guys develop quicker. Like I'll do weekly training for DBs and LBs, and then I'll have like 2 corners or something just to try and really develop. And I feel like it's not necessarily bad. It's just kind of dependent on whatever your team needs that are the most, and kind of what your team situation is looking like. But
I've just always changed receivers, O-line, and then DBs and D-line, and then just filled in like older players at the other positions in like free agency and whatnot.
Yeah.
Your team building strategy is really interesting.
You're the only person I know that hates on Kratos.
Like a lot of times,
hate him.
a lot of times, I've seen you make roster moves, even in any league we played in. I've seen you make roster moves where I'm just kind of like, that's odd, but it works for you. So I mean, I can't sit here and be like, I don't know exactly if that's gonna work, because you make it happen. So I just wanted to tell you that.
I concur. I don't think I've known anyone that was like, you know what? Let me just cut Andrew Luck real quick. He's not really. It's not working out, Andrew. We're just gonna have to part ways.
I mean, yes. I tried to trade him. Y'all just vetoed a trade for a first. So I was like, all right, well, I don't want that 20 million cap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was
fair enough. But still, I mean, now of course Andrew Luck is just sitting as a backup quarterback, getting paid $70 million a year, just TMT, exactly. Just keeping him out of the open market. And I hate it so much because my starting quarterback for 3 years was a 65 overall, and of course I couldn't snag him, and now Andrew Luck's just kind of useless because he's just been a backup for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 31 now. He's only got 93 throw power, which isn't terrible, but I mean, that was kind of always his calling card. And
yeah. I mean, that's why I had to get rid of Cam, because it even though, honestly, even with regression, Cam is still a really solid quarterback. I had to get rid of him because I couldn't, because it was getting to a point where it's like I just needed something new.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was that's just so. I mean, I got to that same point with Cam, but I was so happy to see that $26 million off my damn books, though. I think that was the thing that made me happy.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So who else have we not really gone over in the power rankings? I mean, I think that the top 8, we've said a lot kind of off camera, is kind of it's kind of laid out who the top 8 are for the most part.
Yeah, I think the top 8 don't really change. Dicey, I think your season's been a solid and impressive season.
Yeah,
I mean, I've only played 6 of the 15 games.
Yeah, I'm not even a big. Now the one I'm not a big fan of Bobby. I don't know if I just don't try. I play him next week, so I'll obviously see.
I've never thought he was good, but I think that's just from everybody smashing him in Renegade that I've just
you have this.
I've kind of just written him off. I'm like, oh, he hasn't played anybody.
But yeah, I don't, because I know he's had like a lot of force wins and stuff this year too. So I don't even.
I mentioned
So
I
I'm not
posted that
sure.
in chat yesterday. I think about how when I was going through looking at his schedule.
Yeah, I'm not even. So I don't know exactly how I feel about him, about his record yet, because it's just kind of like I don't know exactly how good he is. I haven't played him with this Bills team, so I don't even know.
He beat Bishes on a fluke. He lost to the Saints.
He beat me without Leonard and Unique, which I still call that a fluke. And I mean, it was an 8-point game, and I just couldn't do. Neither one of us could do anything. He had 150 passing yards. I threw 4 picks. I mean, it was just. I blame that. The reason I lost to him, I 100%. I take full fault for it, but it was totally because of the fact that I didn't have Leonard, and I just was too tired to adjust to his route concepts throughout the game, or adjust to his user.
That's it.
What'd you say?
He's only beat Cripps and Bishes. All of his other games are just force wins.
Yeah, I don't even. Like I said, I don't even know how I feel about his record, but. He's been winning games for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah. But again, that's another division that's had a lot of turnover, because I know we've been struggling with Dolphins users, we've been struggling with Jets users. Even though I think the Jets guy we have now, I think he's a solid player too, because I played him early in the season. But a lot of those games, I think a lot of the turnover in that AFC East plays a part in it too, because we've been struggling to keep Patriots users as well. So I think
ever since Sports left,
I think a lot of it is a lot of turnover in that division. We haven't really been able to replace the guys that we lost, because the old Jets user, which was So Jeff and Sports, those guys, they were really, really good. And then he just kind of rose up
Jeff
from it.
Is weird. I don't like that first season of Renegade. I beat him in the NFC Championship like bad, and then the next season he was like the best player I've ever played against. I didn't know what the fuck happened, but then he just completely fell off after that again.
Yeah, Jeff has always been a weird one. Anytime I play him, he's always been like a weird one where it's just kind of like I don't know exactly what to expect, but yeah, I mean it is what it is.
That Dolphins team was the team I started on.
Yeah.
That team's a fucking nightmare.
Well, I think they got solid pieces in
championship game, and
they got solid pieces on that team now, because they got the quarterback, the quick dev quarterback. He's 21, I believe.
22.
Yeah, then you got Ajayi, of course, which for Madden, I don't think he's really a good Madden running back. But
yeah, they need a back bad.
But so I mean, he kind of, I don't think he has like the receivers either, but I don't know. It's kind of, you can kind of tell the teams that you can kind of tell the teams that have had a lot of turnover, because it's just kind of like it's not like they're missing a lot of pieces, but they're either guys are not devved or they're old.
Older players, yeah.
So it's just like the Steelers situation. A lot of that is just because they're just really old. So, because the old guy was just trading for players to kind of win now. Same thing with the Rams in Khan, where Khan inherited a situation where my man traded a lot of his draft picks, future draft picks, for like now talent. Which I mean, you can't even. Which I mean, Patrick Peterson, basically until this CFM is done, he's gonna be an elite cornerback. And even if he's not an elite cornerback, you can move him to safety and he'd be an elite safety. But like trading for him and Kawan Short and Kelvin Benjamin and who else did he trade for? It's like 2 other guys that he traded for, and it was just like you just traded like 4 of your. Oh, and he traded Adam West, which I mean he got Minuski anyway, so it's not like he really needed West.
Yeah, but that's like the best quarterback I've seen on the franchise, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think he made out too bad as far as that's concerned. But like basically, he traded a lot of his picks for now talent, which now talent is really old. I think Kelvin Benjamin's acceleration, at least after this regression, is probably going to be at like 80 or 82. And then
it's not like he was fast to begin with.
I'm going to say on top of the 86 speed that he has.
I feel like we might be able to make an exception and let Kelvin move to tight ends.
Yeah.
So on top of the 86 speed he has, his acceleration is gonna be like 82, 80. Then you have Kawan Short, which Kawan Short is solid, but I mean, he's an older guy. You're gonna have to replace him sometime, either this offseason or the next one. And like I said, Patrick Peterson, he's just kind of like one of those guys that you can the regression isn't going to hit you that hard, especially with the fact that his speed won't drop below 90. So I don't know. It's just you can kind of tell the teams that have had the development and the teams that haven't.
Wait, his speed won't drop below 90?
No. Unless you move the safety.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless he moves.
There's like a lock.
Yeah. So this year to kind of battle, you know how last year, blitz regression, you would have guys, especially on like CPU teams, like you would have guys that would be starting at cornerback and they have 82 speed because they've regressed for the last 4 seasons. Yeah. And because their awareness and stuff is high, their rating is still like an 88. So they'll be on the field starting with 82 speed. So what they did was for cornerbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, their speed doesn't drop below 90.
If it was above 90.
If it was above 90, it doesn't drop below 90. And if it's below 90, it doesn't move. Oh,
okay. That's dope.
Yeah, so.
But your acceleration and agility still go down 2 a year. And
So it still hits hard because I mean it serves no purpose to have 90 speed and like 82 excel or like 78 excel. It kind of serves no purpose. But so I mean so to me, Patrick Peterson is one of those kind of exceptions to the regression rule where he'll for the most part be an elite guy.
Yeah, you can move him to free safety, he'd be elite for sure.
I mean, you look at what Corey's done with Sherman this year with his 87 speed and 82 excel or whatever, and he's second in the he's tied for second in the AFC in interceptions. I mean,
that's what Devin McCourty was for me last year. He was like 84 speed, I think.
Yeah, I mean, McIntosh has 84 speed and he has 90 excel, but he has 84 speed and he has 10 picks. So I don't understand why people really be hating on like the quote unquote slower.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Pook was going in. He was going out in one of our other chats last night. We were talking after I beat Roger, and he was ragging on Reynolds just because Reynolds only has whatever like 82 agility or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, he makes play. I mean, all he does. I mean, the zone rating is so overpowered this year that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, Reynolds still just makes whatever plays I need him to make because of the fact that he has 91 zone. And I mean, he's not as enticing of a trade target because he only has 82 agility, but I really don't care because I'd sooner trade Okun than I would Reynolds anyways.
Yeah.
Because Okun's only got 79 man while Reynolds has at least like 83, 84.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
he's a year younger. Okun will be 25 after the season.
Yeah. I don't understand why people rag because like even when I drafted McIntosh, even though he was superstar dev, everybody was just like, oh, he's only 84 speed. He's 84 speed and he's below the little height threshold because he's like 5'11". So everybody kind of was just like, nah, that wasn't really that great of a pick, especially seeing as how like literally like the pick or two after that, Cards drafted Handgartner. So so like it's like he ended up with the SS Dev quarterback with like 86 speed and like 90 excel. So everybody was like, oh, that was a great pick. I'm like, man, McIntosh is going to be a baller. The SS Dev with the SSW, that gets his zone coverage to 91, and that alone takes him into a
that's
different
it right there. Yep.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand why people kind of rag on the slower safeties, especially the guys, because typically the slower safeties are like your 6'4" guys, and they meet a height threshold where they just get animations that other guys don't get.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Well, and if it's a CPU defender, they never reach their top speed anyways. They're not sprinting, so who cares?
Exactly. So like I had like Sean Evans rookie year, his zone coverage was only like 71 when I started, but he was getting animations that you get because you're 6'4". So it just kind of made up for the fact that he only had 71 zone, and then that ended up getting him a Pro Bowl, and we all see how he is now. Which, but like I don't know. I don't understand why people kind of rag on the slower guys. I mean, especially at safety, I don't think it's really as big of a deal as it would be if it was like a cornerback. Cornerback, it's a little bit tougher to kind of get away with having slower guys out there. But
yeah,
as far as safety goes, a lot of times, as long as they can cover, typically it's not, because it's very rare guys. Very rare guys go over the top anyway. So a lot of times you're not going to have them, running from the middle of the field to either side.
Yeah, and that's honestly that because of how well that works as like a logic and everything this year is why I love stretching the seam this year as much as I do. And half of it's just because people are really lazy on their user half the time, and it's really easy to manipulate people using over the middle in cover two. But you can, especially if people put their safeties at a position and stuff, which some people don't really think about when they'll move people around to try and stop the run and stuff like that. It can work really well.
Yeah,
and it's one thing that I mean I've killed a lot of people with this year, and not just this season, but in Madden this year in general. And ask I guess you can ask Corey and Roger how well that went, but granted, Roger, I think the emphasis of like how Roger was playing that just emphasizes how it wasn't even necessarily a Madden being Madden. Was I had one play where it was like 3rd and 20, and I had Woods in as my third down back, and I go, he's in man, and so I motioned Woods out and put him on a fly. And Roger was using the guy that was supposed to man up on him, and he didn't go out. And so Woods just ran 30 yards wide open down the field, nobody on him for a touchdown.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, Roger's a fucking disaster this season. I don't understand.
And I was like, all right then. I think that was pretty soon when he was like, I think I'm good. I'm just gonna go. There were like 2 more pick sixes before then, but it was
he came in and threw 7 picks too, so I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, he's struggling really bad, like really, really bad.
I think I've beaten him like the last 3 times I played him in like all our leagues combined. So I'm finally with him. It's just gonna get an idea of
there gets to a point where basically you're playing guys so much, because I think that's part of the reason why Saints played me so well is because he's played me so much. He kind of knows the tendencies and knows where I like to go, things I like to do, and it kind of makes it easier for you to position people that way. Like especially with how many guys we have that we all play across like a couple leagues together, and we often play each other. I think that kind of plays a part in it too. It's basically like, it's basically a chess match where it's like, who comes up with the newer scheme first, like, and who can execute that scheme better. So yeah, I think that's a part of it too, is just guys that you have to play against constantly, like the Rodgers and stuff like that. It kind of makes it to where you kind of know what they do, and if they don't change it, then it makes it a lot easier to beat.
I feel like that's what happened with me against Crip you this year. I scored 7 points against you. I I think I beat you both times last year, and then this year I just scored 7 points. I was like, oh, okay. I literally made a whole new playbook now.
You made him throw out a whole playbook.
Yeah, my whole playbook is
Congratulations. Congratulations.
That might be more accomplishing than beating Roger by 40 points. But I think what's
100%.
been a big thing for me this year, and I think I noticed it against Roger more than anyone, is just the fact because I've started playing Mutt more again, just because I've actually kind of gotten more just into Madden in general, is I mean, it's the same kind of with that logic of like that cover 3 beater that Pook has that, he got pissed that I was able to stop him when he played it, when he ran it, was just because I'm more used to seeing stuff like that now. And so I've picked up on just ways of how to stop it.
Oh yeah, playing Mutt will fucking help you for sure. You can pick up so much different shit from that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I try not to pick up offensive scheme stuff because it's just people run like one play on offense and one play on defense, and it's just I don't enjoy that. Like I'll still go out and run man coverage in Mutt. One, because it screws with people, but two, just because I don't get enjoyment out of just running one play on offense and one play on defense. Like it just bores me. I'd rather lose to someone at least playing like I would rather lose to someone with me playing like I would enjoy playing than beat somebody by running one play. The only exception I'll make to that is if I'm playing someone who only runs one play, and there are a couple of cheesy defenses where there's only like one thing you can do to beat it, and people will run that one play the whole game. And so that's kind of the only exception to that rule that I make. But other than that, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I think I think playing like Mutt and head-to-heads, it does help you on defense because I know I do that too a lot, especially a lot when Madden first comes out. I do that a lot just because the people, it helps you figure out, things
what works well, what doesn't work well
against people that try to manipulate the AI and things like that. Yeah. Of course, you don't expect people to try to run those things constantly in the CFM, in the Sim CFM, you don't expect those people to run constantly, but it helps whenever you like, okay, I know this formation, and typically when I'm playing, and typically people will run this particular play, you set your defense up to stop it, and now they're confused whenever they see, primary and secondary option are covered.
That's 100% what happened for me in Renegade this first season. I was playing a shit ton of Mutt, and that's why I went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I would just come into games and know exactly what people were doing.
Yeah. I mean, and it's that's honestly kind of been, and I know LJF kind of mentioned this in the past when we talk about our differences in like prep style for games and stuff. But that's honestly, that kind of helps. It helps so much because with my logic of I'm always kind of just... I don't necessarily prepare opponent to opponent and always be like, oh, this person runs this person does that. Like once I play people enough, I'll kind of keep it in the back of my mind. But for the most part, I just play Madden, if that makes any sense. And I just kind of am like, okay, well, typically when you have this, people will run this. And when you do this, people will run this. And I just like just general tendencies of what does and doesn't work out of stuff. And it's more of with me, it's more of a just drawing on knowledge that I just kind of have rather than like thinking a lot about it at this point. And so the fact that I've gotten more back into Mutt, which I say is I'm just playing Mutt solos right now, is has kind of helped me with that too, because it just kind of helps with that more casual side of everything that I kind of like to play Madden with. But
yeah, I mean, I think because for me, a big part of mine is just I like knowing the game, so I understand the concepts and how stuff is supposed to work. That's why I kind of hate how like broken some of the zone coverage stuff is, just because
stuff beats stuff that like you can have football knowledge and it doesn't always work because you can
the way the game can be manipulated. So it kind of. So that kind of frustrates me, especially like whenever I play people that don't really know concepts and things like that, and then they just kind of know Madden, and it kind of propels them, because even whenever we had the old Falcons user that ended up winning the Super Bowl season 2, he didn't know anything about football concepts. He didn't know any of that stuff. It was just kind of like he was playing Madden, and it just kind of fucked with me because I couldn't really. Because at least the first time. After that, after like the first time we played, I think he thumped me the first time.
He did. I remember.
Yeah, the second time I had lost by like a touchdown, and then like the 3 times after that, I think I beat him like 44-12 one time. I think I beat him like 20. It was like 28 to like 9 or something like that, and then I beat him again, like a score similar to 28 to 9, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm done."
Yeah. It's that's like the thing is you notice is because I mean like my friend who by the way he's they moved him out of ICU this morning, which was good. He went from totally non-responsive for over 24 hours to being out of the ICU in a 36-hour span. And that's just
like 12 hours later or 36 hours later.
Like 36 hours later. Like he was they rushed him into the hospital. I mean, everything happened Friday night, and he was non-responsive through Saturday afternoon, and they moved him out of ICU Monday morning.
Jesus.
Which is insane, given that he's got 2 broken ribs up by his collarbone, which are like, the hardest ribs to break. Mm-hmm. He's got a punctured lung. He's got a really bad concussion, but I mean,
stuff that he can recover from.
That's what, and I mean, it was the one thing that worried them was with the head trauma and stuff like that. But he's dude's a freaking trooper, and it's just been, I mean, it doesn't really surprise any of us that he's doing as well as he's coming as far as he has in such a short time. But the whole point of that being was he's quarterback. He was our 5'6" backup quarterback last year. He was not actually that short anymore, but he is the shortest player to ever take snaps at quarterback at Cowboy Stadium. He was sophomore year. We were beating the crap out of someone, and our coach put it in our. He wasn't on varsity that year, obviously, because he was like 5'0". Yeah. But he got to take like 3 snaps at quarterback because we were beating this other team so bad, and but he always hates it because he's like, man, I'll run cover 2, and then they'll throw a post. And you're not supposed to be able to throw a post against cover 2. And he hates it so much because he understands everything about the game so much. It irks him. And it's why he'll lose interest in Madden after a while, just because it's just not realistic enough. Which makes sense. It's why I kind of go in and out of phases of enjoyment, but
it's kind of to be honest, it's kind of tough to get
just right
to get a computer game, to get a computer program, essentially, because that's essentially what Madden is.
Oh yeah,
is a computer program. It's tough to kind of get everything into a computer program as far as like the concepts and stuff are concerned. So I mean, I can understand the reason why it makes it so difficult, but it's like there's no reason. But it's like at least make. You don't have to at least make the coverages work. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least make the coverages work. I want to know that whenever I'm running a cover 2, I'm not going to get beat on a deep post literally every time I run it. Like I don't want I want the fact that I want like concepts to matter, and I feel like that's one thing. The
concepts don't really matter enough. Yeah. It's more of you can beat any coverage with one route, and it's the most frustrating thing in the game. Like the only reason I would say you should be able to beat cover 2 with a post is if it's a slot post and you have both of your outside receivers running like vertical routes.
Yep,
because then it would occupy both
the safeties. So
that's the only. But you can just run a deep post and your safeties just neither one of them will play it, and it's. And honestly, the way I would honestly do it is, and I don't know enough about how they code everything because they don't really divulge that to say it, but I would say have everything should be percentage based, in my opinion, and have everything based on depending on the rating in relation to the other player's rating, is it's all a percentage-based system on if they react to make a play on it. And, obviously being equal would be like a 50-50% chance sort of deal.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like that'd be a better way to do it than just be like, oh, well, because I feel like they don't have enough kind of give and take with a lot of stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of the time it's completely everybody is like an independent unit rather than, which is I think why Madden is so different from football, because of how real life there is such an emphasis on the team, while Madden, because of I would assume it's just the way they have to code it, each player is a completely independent unit from each other player. And I feel like that probably is what causes a lot of the rifts and stuff with, the disparity between real life and, the video game. But
well, I think the thing for me is make the positioning and stuff matter. Make the actual size of players matter. It shouldn't even have to be a height threshold for something to work. Like you should, like the fact of the matter is, because there's stuff that 5'10" guys that other 6'4" guys can do that some 6'4" guys can't do. So it's like you got like Antonio Brown. There's some catches that he can make. There's some things that he specifically can do that taller receivers can't.
Yeah.
And even though there are taller receivers that can kind of do the same things, not all of them can do that. So to me, the fact that they're making it to where, yep, if you got a guy that's 6'4", he unlocks all of these he unlocks X amount of animations. I think it should be more about the positioning and the rating than anything else, because if like the whole Newkirk and Evans thing, where it's like you have a 5'10" receiver going against a 6'4" safety with better ratings. There's the likelihood of that receiver winning that interaction is slim to none. And you have just simply due to the fact that Matt just decided that was just the time to be fucky. But like you have to me, like the fact that I was in position to make the interception should have mattered more.
Mm-hmm.
Like it should have mattered more. I was the one. I made the right move. I played the right coverage, and I put him in position to make a play. And then it doesn't matter because positioning isn't a thing, and positioning isn't a thing in Madden. That's ridiculous. Because that's a lot of times that's what football is, especially once you get to the NFL level. Because everyone at that point, most guys are elite level talents.
Athletes, talents. It's all it's all positioning, and it's just the 6 inches between your ears. I mean,
exactly. So the fact that one, awareness doesn't matter, and two, positioning doesn't matter, are two things that I think should really be changed, because the fact that the only thing awareness does on here, for the most part, unless you're simming games, it doesn't do anything.
I feel like awareness should be in relation to positioning. Like if a guy has higher awareness, he should, like, I feel like, I mean, and that'd be such a, like, it sounds like a small thing, but I mean, a safety with 90 awareness should, I don't know, 90% of the time be in position to make a play on the ball. Maybe not that like constant, but I mean, it should be something like that where awareness, in my opinion, should have a direct relation to a player's ability to put himself in position to make plays.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But I think you look at too is the you talk about like the crazy plays. You look at like some of the craziest plays, like freaking Odell Beckham's catch that inspired the
aggressive catch
the way it is. I mean, who was that? It was that Brandon Carr. Like that wasn't on Patrick Peterson. That wasn't on Richard Sherman. Brandon Carr. Okay. Like, I mean, you're not gonna see. Tell me the last time Patrick Peterson got one hand mossed by a corner. I don't care how good he is.
Yeah.
Tell me the last time it happened. Period.
Yeah,
Didn't Revis get one-handed on by Moss?
but that's by Randy Moss. Randy Moss is an elite
true.
level receiver.
Well,
Randy
so
Moss
was
was-
OBJ, though.
and to be fair, he did burn right past Revis too. It's not like Revis
Yeah, I was gonna
wasn't,
say,
Revis wasn't in
that
position
wasn't
to
even
do it.
contested. Yeah.
Revis,
Yeah.
Revis,
on that route.
yeah,
True.
that was, and that's another example of why receiver regression shouldn't hit until 30 at least.
Yeah,
Because Randy Moss was 31 that year.
Yeah, they need to have something where if it's like a top level receiver, they should slowly slower. What is
Well,
the
I
word
mean,
for
and
that?
what I
Slowly
saw-
regress rather than.
It should be I mean, and the thing, remember the video I linked back probably a month and a half ago. The guy was going on for it was about, which I thought was an interesting topic of like, if there's production there should be a direct correlation between, and I think they're kind of going that way with the dev traits, but I think that should be a more direct correlation of like, maybe if a guy hits each of those level season goals is like an incentive of like less regression. Like a guy who hits his season 4 season goal shouldn't regress as much as a guy who only hit his season 2 season goal or only hit his season 1 season goal.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too, is the regression. I think they got to tune that to a point where it doesn't, because honestly in CFM, just because of how regression is, like it makes you not value older players, which is not realistic for an NFL roster. You're not going to have a team like Rodgers where you have, most of your guys and they're not even 27 years old.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, you're not going to have a team like what mine was for the first 4 years of the franchise, where I completely gutted the roster for the most part, outside of like Calais Campbell and Telvin Smith.
Exactly.
I mean, now it's looking a little better because I have 80% of my roster is like 26 or 25 years old. But
yeah,
I mean,
but like the fact that type of stuff just to me doesn't seem. It makes having players over like 27, 28 years old useless.
Pointless.
Like,
terrible.
Honestly, I don't think that they should make the progression system quite as harsh until 32. I get having that cliff at 26. Like, I completely get that. But like, I think that there should be some level of like, you should still get, I mean, like a decent amount. If a guy makes his first Pro Bowl at like age 27, like, I mean, realistically that happens where guys will make their first Pro Bowl at 27, and then they don't necessarily become like a transcendent talent, but they don't just go back to being that necessarily a lot of the time that same like beginner level of production sort of deal.
Yeah.
But in Madden, if a guy makes his first Pro Bowl at 27, he's going to get like what, 1,000 XP that you can't even use for anything, if that much that you can't even use on anything.
Yeah. It's the guy Deuce Douglas that does like a little franchise series. Actually, the Madden dev said they tried to hire him. I don't know exactly how realistic that is, but they said they tried to hire him. Anyways, but he has like a little franchise series on his YouTube channel, which I would say, if y'all like to see CFM stuff, like the stuff that he's talking about is dope. So check that out. But he was saying something where, like you were saying, Crips, where it's like kind of links it to whatever that dev is. And then it's just kind of like, because it's like if you got a guy that's superstar dev, the likelihood of him regressing as soon as he hits 28 years old is slim to none.
Barring a major injury, which they have in the game.
Yeah. So like stuff like that needs to me doesn't matter nearly enough. And it's like, especially with like you said, where some guys don't get to that elite level until later in their career. So you're telling me if I make it to an elite level player at 27, that at 28 I'm out of my prime. This is like that to me is the most ridiculous.
Like every tight end in the NFL in the last like 10 years. I mean,
exactly.
Like that's like a thing that like that's like a position within itself too. I don't get why it. I think that like they shouldn't have like a clear cutoff at like 26 either, and I think that it shouldn't be so drastic at 26. I don't think it should be so drastic year to year after that either. Like I feel like there should be everything in relation to progression and regression should be it should be a lot more fluid. And I feel like a really easy way to do that would be to set it. I don't think necessarily season goals is the best way to do that, just because of the fact that, I mean, I think even they know that that's kind of an iffy system as is. But there's some way like similar to that you could probably code it in the game, and it probably wouldn't be just the most difficult thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
That it would allow you to kind of say, okay, well, based on X, Y, and Z, milestones or margins that they hit. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be like that hard, even if it was just like showing progressive improvement year to year, saying, okay, well, player A only had 400 receiving yards as a rookie, but they were a 4th round pick, and the next year they had 800 yards.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you should still be rewarded for something like that too. Like, I mean,
well, yeah, I think them going more towards that RPG type of deal with the XP. I think I like the idea because it kind of gives you control over exactly what you make better for a guy. Because honestly, if you're not a guy that really runs a lot of routes where you have to have that spec catch,
mm-hmm.
there's no point for you to have to put it up. But like,
I liked the old NCAA idea though, where it was always like packages and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I thought that was always an interesting idea too.
I think it should be like, I think it should, the XP thing is kind of especially seeing as how like literally most of the XP you get is at the end of the season, just because you won an award or you made a Pro Bowl. Like, to me, that's just not realistic. A guy, there's no reason that a guy should there's no reason
that had a freak season. Then why is he waiting?
Yeah. This guy's been playing like a man, like Vasquez. Like, he's been playing like a man all season, but he's not going to be able to see
anything
until after.
I guess he still gets it for playoffs, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Which I guess it's all right.
But I mean, even then,
sure.
I feel like they could kind of adjust the weighted systems of like how they give XP in terms of even like player of the week and stuff like that, and kind of maybe not player of the week itself, but like, I mean, you could have like benchmarks sort of deals like that you could do, and rather so you don't have to weigh so much on everything being end of year.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
And then I think getting away from XP, as far as the sim community goes, it'll kind of get rid of the whole stat chasing, stat padding thing too. If the progression stuff if the progression stuff was more natural, which I think it should be, because even with guys that have superstar dev, like the guys that you draft late that have that superstar dev, most times those guys are guys that they have the talent, but they don't bloom immediately.
It's a year or two.
Yeah. So
or
like, exactly. So I think it should be something more tuned to that, where it's kind of like, sometimes you have basically like tiers or levels to each dev, where you have a superstar, but he's a late bloomer. So you're not gonna see exactly his superstar type of potential until he reaches that 26, 27 age. Like you got your immediate guys like the Ezekiel Elliott types that come in and immediately make an impact, and then you have then you have your guys where
your Chris Harris Jr. types.
Yeah, then you have your guys where they have the high ceiling. Oh well, then you have the guys that they're boom to bust really quickly. So they're a superstar for their superstars coming out, but then their peak is only 3-4 years. So now that guy that came in and he's putting up all of these crazy stats for 3 or 4 years, then all of a sudden he just doesn't have it, which happens. So like stuff like that to me is kind of like the progression system that they kind of need to go to and just make it more natural. Like the XP thing to me doesn't seem like natural.
And have like an off-season system too. Like, I mean, you look at that's when everybody gets better.
Yeah.
Between the end of the Super Bowl and the start of the preseason.
Yeah, that's when you see a lot of guys.
There should be something. That was the one thing I always loved about the training, the off-season training with NCAA that was what was so good about it was like you'd go through and it wasn't quite the same like in season because there wasn't nearly as much in-season development in the NCAA as there was in Madden.
Yeah,
but
was there any actually?
Yeah, you could get boosts like one or two of certain
most times it was just temporary though. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah,
it was just temporary stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of temporary stuff, I also one thing I think would be interesting to have them bring back in too is the whole temporary boost logic. Like if there was an NCAA, like I mean,
they have that.
Yeah, like in NCAA, like in Road to Glory, you could choose to upgrade. You could spend less XP to give your player a bigger like in-game boost for like one game, and he would go down to his regular stats again, or you could choose to save your XP more and use it for like long-term permanent ones. And I always like the idea.
They kind of have that with confidence this year, right?
Well,
it takes forever to actually get it. But...
And then it doesn't really go away either. Like, I mean, once you get a guy with +3 confidence boost, I mean, unless you start 8-0 and then tank to 8-8, I mean, it's not really going to go away. But I always liked it as an interesting idea because, especially, say you're in the playoffs or something, you could go into the playoffs with that Pro Bowl XP and kind of say, okay, well, do I want to, not spend all this XP and maybe get some temporary boosts and try and win this year, or do I want to spend more XP and just kind of keep my guys moving for past this year? And I think that'd be an interesting idea, especially when it comes to like having windows and stuff like that. And like, I mean, you'll really see with your team and be like, okay, well, if I don't win it this year, I might have to full on rebuild. And I think that'd be an interesting idea of saying, Broncos late 90s kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, the team building element to me is something that can kind of be redone.
Completely
it's just
overhauled.
Yeah, because it just doesn't seem, like I said, like I would like to see like a penalty to like your players, like nothing like huge, but like a small penalty to like a noticeable penalty to play to teams that have those that don't have any like veterans, and you got a bunch of guys that are only been in the league 2 or 3 years. And you don't have any veteran leadership behind those guys. I feel like it should be like some type of penalty for that. Like
make awareness matter and have it be like an awareness thing, or have it be like a maybe having veteran players is more of an incentive. Like your guys maybe they like positional specific like attributes like coverage or like catching ratings and stuff. If you have veterans on your roster, maybe your younger guys could develop that quicker. Because I mean, you look at this. I mean, I think a great example with that is just with linebackers like that Jacksonville had, like with Paul Posluszny and Miles Jack, of how you have Miles Jack sitting behind Paul Posluszny, and then he comes in this year, and you still have Pause there to teach him and stuff, but Jack actually looked good, and then you look compared to Jalen Smith, who granted had a slightly more serious injury, but he didn't necessarily have as much of a he had Sean Lee there, but I mean his deficiencies kind of matched with Sean's deficiencies, and so it didn't work as well. But I just think there's so much you can do with all of that.
I mean, just introduce like a poise rating that only is affected by how old they are or something, what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say,
instead of having awareness like collectively affect your offensive line, just have your overall awareness like collectively affect your team as a whole.
Yeah.
Or have there's what the likability rating or whatever that helps for jersey sales. I mean, that's already in the game, and you could transform that and have it be you could actually make that be a big deal, which I think it would be important. Like, I mean, then, a guy like Ndamukong Suh would actually be kind of knocked down for his inability to, actually be part of a successful team.
Yeah. I think it should be I think team building should really matter more. That's just my thing. Like, from all the things we're saying, I think just the team building aspect is something that is missing in Madden, where it's just kind of like, it doesn't seem, it basically just is like, who can collect the best young guys. It's not.
It really is. It's like mutt with a mask on. Really,
exactly.
Is what it is.
It's like, who can collect the best young guys? Who can get Then the draft, to me, is entirely too easy to spot players. I think another thing that they should do is kind of like a hitting ratings type of system, where you don't really see, because most times you don't know how good a rookie is going to be until they get a few games, or even sometimes years under their belt. Like, nobody knew exactly how good Alex Smith was until he finally got some consistency for his team, as far as, he didn't change offensive coordinators for the first time since he had been in the league consecutively. Like, you don't see
Well, there's so many factors that go into that kind of shit. Like Nelson Aguilar being useless for 2 years, now having a good year.
Exactly. So,
and that just goes into a whole nother deal. Add coordinators into the game and make them matter.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's
please, that. Okay, that was my favorite thing about NCAA. Granted, I hated the fact that you didn't really have any control over your coordinators, but the fact that you had coordinators and that they actually had an effect on your team, and the whole coaching tree system and everything, and all of that would be so good to implement, and you could do so much with it in terms of team development. And then it wouldn't necessarily put such an emphasis on, then honestly, you could kind of have that tandem with, the confidence system. But honestly, I feel like that could, to a large extent, replace the confidence system.
Well, the thing, all of these things that people are saying that they want to see are things that used to be in the older Maddens, like the Maddens from Xbox. These are things that used to be in there, like the coordinators that actually affect the team. And
how would you even do that for a 32-man franchise, though? Would you have to create coordinators?
I was going to say, I think that's the biggest reason, is that because they've gone more towards that online multiplayer type of model.
There's only so many good coordinators. You're gonna have teams stuck with shitty ones.
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest turnoff as to what makes them kind of apprehensive to put coordinators in the game. Because if you think about it, you got to put O coordinators, D coordinators, and you got to put O coordinators, D coordinators. Yeah, I was gonna say, in special teams coordinators. So you got to think about, that's at least 32 guys per coordinator position, on top of the fact that you should probably have, just some extras laying around. So let's say 40 to 45 guys per coordinator position.
You just make it an option, though, where if you start a franchise, you can put the setting to where you have to create your offensive and defensive coordinator as well, then also groom them.
Yeah, that could also be a thing too.
So I feel if it was like a create, I feel like, and it's not like the CPU doesn't automatically generate guys as is. It generates, 20, 30 head coaches or whatever as is.
Yeah, I think that's just, I think a lot of the stuff that they kind of got away from as far as the old Maddens go,
was to make it more gamey.
Yeah, it was it was to make it so that online multiplayer was more of a thing, because because it became such a huge success. They want to make it so that people can continue to play online. So just putting out a lot of that content is tough. Which, that's why I kind of give the dev team, I give them props, because a lot of times it's a lot of stuff that we ask for that I'm pretty sure the coding and stuff for it doesn't
even exist.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not even sure if stuff like that exists. And then like, because even some of the devs have said there's some of the coding, they're still coding from like old Madden that they still don't even know. Like, that's how much coding is in the game. So I can kind of give them a pass as far as just like
a lot of stuff of just how. And I'm like the same way too, because I mean you see people ask for like completely just impossible things and stuff like that, and I mean more so in my opinion with stuff is just it's not that I feel I'm trying to find words. It's just I think a lot of the stuff that it's more so just as a general kind of logic, sort of how I mean a lot of like really nitpicky stuff that people like to ask for is really hard to do, and I think the easier thing for them to do, and that I think is what I try and ask more, is just fixing what's already there and kind of perfecting the model that they've already kind of built on, because there's a lot of things that you can't really go back on at this point and add and do, while there is a lot of stuff that you can kind of fix still.
Yeah. I think immersion. I think the biggest thing from the CFM, honestly, to me, the gameplay is what needs to be addressed first. I think if the gameplay is addressed, then
everything else will fall into line.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll make the game easier to play, which that'll help with keeping people around. So then after you get the gameplay right, you can start adding those more immersive features where you're keeping where they're recording stats and recording MVPs and stuff like that. I think the immersion stuff. I think CFM guys could kind of get over the other stuff if it was more if the gameplay was better. I don't think the gameplay is which I mean honestly, I think they got concepts for the gameplay that are good. I just think they kind of need to fix some of it. I just think it's kind of some of the concepts are just really broken. I think they got like the right system and stuff in place. Because I think me and Crips both were telling people, like, whenever they first decided to change to Ignite, I think Tebow too, whenever they changed from the Ignite engine to the Frostbite, we were like,
it was going to be rough.
I was going to say, everybody was like, it's going to be, everybody's like, it's going to be crazy because they got this Frostbite engine and FIFA looks so good. And I was like, FIFA
had some
weird.
Do
y'all remember how bad FIFA was the first year, guys?
Yeah, FIFA was brutal.
It's like even FIFA struggled on the Frostbite engine. It took some time to get it right.
Isn't Frostbite from Battlefield anyways?
Yeah, it's where they adapted it from.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and that's the thing. It's like that first year is gonna be buggy. It's gonna be really buggy. And then
I mean, you think about how, and I think that's honestly kind of the biggest reason why they put thresholds in the game, was a way for them to kind of limit the level of like just crap that would flow into it. Because I mean, you look back in the past, thresholds have never really been a thing before. Like, it is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the time it has been more of a progressive rating system. Like, a guy with 95 in a stat is going to play better than a guy with 91 in a stat. Whereas this year, that's not really the case.
Yeah.
And I think that, thresholds play a big, obviously this year thresholds play a big factor in that. And I think that a big reason why they did that was so it would kind of give them time to figure out how their new engine was going to work with the game.
Yeah, I think next year will be 10 times better as far as the bugginess of the game. But I don't know. I think this year was kind of like, because honestly, this is the worst Madden that they've put out
since Madden 15.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is like the worst one they've put out. So I mean, I think this was it was bound to happen like this, especially when you switch to a new engine. It was bound to happen like that. So I mean, I kind of give them a little leeway on that. I'm pretty sure next year will be a lot better, at least from what I'm hearing the devs say. And I trust these devs because I think they really, because Rex worked on NCAA, so I fully believe that he can make a great game because we all love NCAA. at least all of us that have played it, we love NCAA.
Yeah, that shit was great.
So I think we all can say he's done good work before. And I think Clint Oldenburg, I think him being in there, I think Clint being in there, honestly, blocking has improved so much from where it was, the blocking mechanics. It's really like, and then the nano detection and all that stuff. Like I said, I think they have the concepts and stuff to make the game amazing, what we want it to be. So I think this next year is probably going to be where we see a lot of those things that we've
kind of all been
asking for and we've been wanting to see. So I'm not going to be too optimistic, but I am optimistic enough to kind of think of it and be like, this game is. I think
could
Madden,
be.
Yeah, I think Madden 19 could be something really dope. I really do.
Yeah, I think I file pretty much in line with all of that, and I think the one thing that's interesting, which obviously plays more to the game aspect than the real life aspect, is the just the distribution of the player overalls ratings and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I mean that's not gonna be something that gets fixed until ever, just because that's just a gamey aspect of it that people like seeing those high overall numbers. They don't like people don't like to kind of accept the fact that most people in the NFL aren't NFL talent. But I mean, and I think that if they could kind of decrease that disparity between, there's going to be a drop off between, a low 70, mid to high 70s overall player versus a high 60s overall player. But, real life, most teams on a week-to-week basis have to start at least one guy that would be a 60 overall player.
Yeah.
And I mean, it shouldn't be as much of a drop off as it is realistically, or as it is in the game. But
like I said, I think the thing that'll help with that is like the hidden ratings. I think if they made it so you couldn't necessarily see guys' ratings until they've been in the league and they've played these games, and you kind of can see. And honestly, I think that should be more performance based too, where it's kind of like you don't see these things until they X amount of years or X amount of games are played. I think that'll help, and then also make the scheme matter more, other than it just raising and dropping awareness. Because raising and dropping overalls, because it's like it doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this guy doesn't fit my scheme, quote unquote, but it's like, what is your scheme?
Yeah.
like exactly what does it do? It doesn't do anything. So I think that, and I think honestly, I think they got a good idea in Mutt with the chemistry thing. So I think teams, I think that should matter more too. Is that teams like me with my Panthers, I don't have a lot of turnover and a lot of movement. So those guys should be able to play better together than, say a guy like Roger that has so much turnover year in and year out, to where or even Bobby, where he has so much turnover year in and year out that the scheme that the fact that it's all the same. And it's like, especially with like quarterbacks and receivers, stuff like that is so pivotal in real life that I think that it's like you can't, like, things like that I think should be in the game.
I like honestly, I think the biggest thing that should affect that is I think that there should be a bigger aspect on scramble drill logic. And because especially when you see guys nowadays like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that, that's such a big part of their game. But like the longer a play goes on, I feel like you should be able to have something in there where, like, okay, well, player X and player, your quarterback and your number 2 receiver have been on the team together for 6 years. Yeah. So they have, I don't know, like they react better in those situations, and they, almost like how you have like almost how you have like the playmaker trait in Mutt.
Yeah.
Of how you could say, maybe not like that same aspect, but then they have, the longer they're on the team together, the quicker they'll make cuts past their initial route tree design and stuff like that, and the quicker they'll respond to the quarterback being under pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Like I said, I think Mutt has some things that would work in CFM. Like I said, the chemistry, just like, you know, the traits, like the playmaker trait where, you know, those guys do make better plays, you know, due to, you know, whatever variable. Like I think that's one of the things that honestly needs to be looked at, needs to be kind of fleshed out is you know, having that chemistry, because it just seems like it's one of those things that honestly it would make, because if you think about it, there's really not, at least among like most of the teams in the league, honestly, there really isn't as much turnover that happens across the league. It's kind of like you have your free agents where some guys will go, some guys, and every now and then you'll have a trade. But I feel like in the NFL, in the actual NFL, they just don't really have to worry about a whole bunch of team movement, because
especially amongst your winning, your like more winning teams.
Yeah,
a lot of times are going to be making more moves are the teams that go 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 every year.
Exactly. It's like a lot of damn
ignore that math.
A lot of Browns. I understood what you were saying. So a lot of Browns where, you know, they made all of these moves this offseason trying to figure out a way to win. That's understandable. But in the Patriots are an exception to the whole winning team rule. But like
in every way possible.
Yeah, I was curious to say they're like an exception to that whole thing. But like you have like your teams like the Saints were really successful this past season. So they're not going to make a bunch of like, you know, complete really big shakeups. Same with the Vikings. Honestly, the only big shakeup they had was getting Kirk Cousins. And that was because
all three of their QBs were free agents and they felt he was a better option than any of the three guys in the building.
Exactly. So like, to me, that's team building. That's you going into win now mode. I need to win at this moment, because especially whenever you have great defenses, typically that window is only like 2 or 3 years. So in those 2 or 3 years, you got to figure out a way to make your team as competitive as possible on the offensive side of the ball, which I think stuff like that should matter. But like I said, I think the hitting ratings would help a lot more as far as like determining what.
Honestly, what I was. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, in terms of like hidden ratings, I think would be an interesting idea is, you know, how you get all of the ratings of everything of how what's what I'm trying to think of is you have, you know, you get your top 3 ratings as like your B+, your B, your B- or whatever. I mean, almost have it as like something like that, and then you can have and then almost implement like a system, kind of like how you had scouting in like NCAA 14, of how you would have like gyms that would kind of exceed those numbers, and then you would have busts that would kind of decrease those, but rather have it be based on kind of, you come out with like this shell logic of, okay, well, year 1, I know that my first round pick has A- spec catch, but I don't know what the actual, and then have it be like A+ can go all the way to 99 or whatever. And you adjust you tweak the numbers off that, but like, you know, okay, well, my guy has this, but I don't know exactly what number within the rating it is. And then based on like how they perform throughout the year, whether it be statistically or like the teams, they factor in statistics and the team's performance and yada, yada, this and that, and have all of that kind of factor in. And then come the end of the year, well, you know, maybe you find out you can start over the course of the year, like you can scout sort of your almost like how you could in NCAA your players to like an extent, and kind of have a little better of an idea. But then like at the end of the year, you can say, okay, well, you know, maybe my guy had a really, really good season and he And so he becomes a gem, and his ratings can go above whatever that number was. But maybe there's also a way to factor in and say, okay, well, my receiver had 1,500 yards, but he only, but even though he had, A- spec catch, he only completed like 3 aggressive animations the whole year, and so maybe that rating can go down. And there's a way, because there's probably a way they could just numerically track that. And but again, it's just this is just people spitballing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like I said, a lot of this stuff, I'm pretty sure the coding on it is like extensive, more extensive than any of us probably could imagine. So, So I mean, it's a delicate thing, but I mean, it's
it's an interesting idea too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Madden 19 has potential to be one of the best Maddens we've had in a long time. So I think we can. I think that's something I'm not going to necessarily say I'm banking on, but from everything I'm hearing and everything that I've seen, I would think that would be it. I would think, because honestly, I don't think Madden 17 was as bad as a game as most people thought it was. But I think there were some things in there, obviously, they could have done better. But I think Madden 17 was actually a pretty solid game as far as the everything considering goes. But I figured Madden 18 was kind of going to be like that lull because of the whole changing engines thing. Because that's because at that point you legit have to like change the complete coding of the game.
You have to. There's only so much of it you can even take over from the other engine, because it's the whole basis of everything it's built on has changed. And so if your base logic for how a receiver catches a pass is say that entire base formula of how the ball goes into the receiver's hands and he maintains possession, and you have to like just rework that entirely from scratch. I mean, that's the kind of just extremely basic logic that year to year, they don't have to even worry about, because on the same engine, it's the same logic, but reworking the engine, they have to go through and all the nuts and bolts have to be redone. And freaking LT has fumbled. I am losing by 3 points, and LT has fumbled 3 times.
I understand how that goes.
It is bad. Like granted it's mutt, but like I've got 99 LT who's one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the game, and I can't remember the last time this dude fumbled 3 times. Of course, I'm playing a guy who has one scheme. He just runs halfback dive every play basically, and then he'll throw sometimes, and maybe he'll run the quick toss, the toss pitch glitch out of deuce bunch. So it honestly it really does test me. Like that's why I like playing MUT, is because as much as I enjoy CFM, MUT does test me more.
Well, I mean, in CFM, a lot of times the disparity from the top of the league to the bottom of the league is pretty substantial. Even though now what I will say is, even though we're not as deep as far as talent is concerned, as we used to be, we still from top to bottom, it's still teams. Like there's bad teams. There's teams that are quote unquote would be considered bad teams that have users that can beat like Saints, for example. Honestly, I've never thought Saints was a bad user. It's just that he just, for some reason, he just really doesn't finish games. So I mean, I think that's one thing that I like about our league, is that it's kind of like from top to bottom. It's not really, especially with those elite teams. Like any of us can be at any point in the season can be the top guy in the league and like legitimately be the top guy in the league. So I mean, I think that's one thing I like about AMLoB, is that we have the league is pretty deep as far as talent is concerned.
Yeah. I just tried to force a pass on cover 2 invert, and
that was stupid. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't even see exactly what happened. And
It
I can
was.
tell
I
you
ran.
that was not dumb.
I'll tell you exactly what I did. I ran that PA crosser where you got like that mid cross. You got the, you got that slot post. You got the deep post, and the one thing that, like, because you can get away with in cover 2 invert that's not different from cover 2 is the middle of the field is actually kind of open because you have your corners playing deep and not your
they're
safety.
playing deep. Yeah, deep
so
halves. Yeah.
his safety just jumped about 15 feet in the air, and I made the mistake too because it's still, you're playing Madden and you can't really get away with in MUT you can't really get away with not throwing bullet passes because about like 80% of the time, just because 91 zone guys will make plays that just shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
So I tried to fit the ball into a window in between his 2 deep corners, and his safety, he had freaking Byron Jones 98 jumping.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah,
Just came up out of nowhere and just ate my dinner.
Pure athleticism is what that was.
Yeah, it was something. But it is what it is. I still win more games in MUT than I lose, which I take pride in because I really don't like indulging into cheese. So I don't get how people can I don't get how people can run the same play on defense every play, although I kind of can get it a little bit, but I really don't get how people can run the same play on offense every play because that would just be too boring.
Yeah, I think mostly the like elite level guys, they pick the same play, but essentially every play is different with the audibles and with the hot routes and stuff that they do. But now, like, you playing against like, Joe Blow on MUT.
He'll just run. He'll just run. Oh well. Problem just runs nickel blitz 2 every play.
Exactly.
Problem calls nickel blitz 2 every play.
Yeah.
It's 2 completely different things.
Yeah, it's like by the time he's done changing coverages and all types of stuff, that play is no longer cover 2.
It's no longer nickel blitz 2. Nickel blitz 2 died like halfway through the.
Yeah, it's like it's no longer nickel blitz 2 at this point. At this point, he only has like 3 guys coming. A guy in a deep third.
One of them's the corner on the outside.
Exactly. It's like, at this point, it's not even that play anymore. Like,
but that's the one thing I ran into a guy earlier that ran. It took me about the first half to realize that all he did was he would run that play, it's not nickel blitz 2, but you blitz your linebacker in your nickel corner and you drop your defensive tackle into coverage.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. He would run that play and then basically the equivalent of that play out of quarters. And those were the only 2 plays that he ran. And I got down the field pretty easily on him early. And, that's not going to end well. And I got down on the field pretty early, and then I ran play action, and, he was usering on Myles Garrett playing defensive tackle, and what should have been an easy touchdown was not an easy touchdown. And there was one point where I was down like 13 points, and I was like, oh, well, this isn't good. And then that's really bad. Rip this game. But so I was down like 13 points, and I was like, wait, he's not coming out of quarters like an idiot. And so then the second half, I just came out with, LT and 3 tight ends. And I took my pancake blocks all the way down the field for about 3 drives, and he quit with like 2 minutes left because he couldn't really do anything on offense after about the first half because, like, in MUT, for most of the time, like, people may move the ball on me in the first half, but I usually am decent enough at making adjustments because they don't call enough plays for me to have to remember. And so, really it's just me playing catch up the second half the time. But which I guess I've gotten pretty good at doing. But he finally quits. And the funniest part was, he quit after he finally threw like his 3rd pick in the second half. But the entire game, anytime he would get a play of more than like 10 yards on offense, or anytime he would get a tackle for loss on defense, he would pause the game. Right. And he would just pause. He would pause it for about 2 seconds just to be like, I just got a 10-yard play on you. And then he'd play the game, run it back again. And he'd play the game again. And he did that probably, he used up like all of his allotted pauses, that they allow you to use.
Yeah.
Just for that point. And so me being me, which I'm not usually one to say much, especially on Mutt, it bothers me a little bit when people message me GG after a Mutt game just because it's Mutt. But I had to take the liberty to message him and go, I guess all those constant pauses didn't really help you win the game now, did they? I put a couple clapping emojis afterwards too, just to rub it in.
There you go. I mean, I'm completely for that.
And I just lost this guy by 13 points because the one thing because I play so much sim that I'm really bad at doing, especially because it's OP, is stopping playmakers.
Yeah.
When people playmaker, it's just it breaks all logic of everything.
Yeah.
But that was half this guy's offense was just running drags and then playmakering his guy just up the seam, and there's already someone in my zone, and so I can't really just move to the playmaker. He would just throw to the guy that I had to vacate just to cover the playmaker. And
yeah, it's one of those cheesy schemes, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've been casting for a couple hours now. I think we put a lot of content into this today.
Yeah, I feel like this was like a deep one. I mean, it was a lot of rambling, but it was it was good.
As Gary said, I think we put a lot of content into this one, so I think people, when they actually watch this tomorrow, because a lot of people said they were busy tonight, so we didn't exactly have the even small audience we typically have.
We didn't have our same 4 fans as usual.
Yeah, I was ready to say we didn't have our typical audience. So it's a lot of content. I think people will be happy with this tomorrow. But of course, everybody have a great night.
Great day whenever you're listening to it.
Yeah, Crips, good job. So see y'all next week.
All right.
See you out.